of what we communicate is nonverbal body language. But we don't often think about what those nonverbal messages convey to others. Arms wide open is a welcome stance, whereas arms crossed indicates a defensive or closed posture. Thumbs up, approval. Thumbs down, disapproval. Facial expressions, gestures, and body posture are ways we communicate with one another. What about fences, walls, and barriers? What messages do they convey? We put fences around our homes for protection and security for ourselves, our loved ones, and property. Barriers silently but clearly state only certain people, only people who belong, are allowed to enter. Everyone else must stay out. Barriers are used as a form of protection. They are also used as forms of oppression. There was a beautiful United Methodist Church. Its large stained glass window was stunning. The lawn was lush, green, and meticulously manicured. But then I noticed the chain-linked fence around the church. Looking beyond the fence into the neighborhood, I noticed several run-down, low-income apartment buildings. A dramatic contrast to this beautiful church building. The fence surrounding that church shouted, "Stay out! You do not belong, nor are you welcomed." 50 years earlier, that particular church was one of the churches to be a part of. The sanctuary could easily sit 450 people comfortably. Every Sunday it overflowed. There was standing room only in the balcony, in the narthex, and in the aisles. When I saw that church, the 80 people who worshiped there made the sanctuary feel large and empty. The people missed the glory days of the church. Although that fence was built to protect their property, non-verbally there was a dividing line between us and them. I lived in Berlin, Germany during the time the Iron Curtain divided Berlin into East and West. The first time I traveled to East Berlin, I wasn't prepared for what I encountered. There too was a drastic contrast between democratic West Berlin and communist East Berlin. Crossing that dividing line, time seemed to come to a screeching halt. A dark, dreary cloud casting its permanent shadow over the city. Somber faces of people who had been robbed of all hope. Human beings like you and me, trapped in a miserable existence, with no opportunities to improve their circumstances in life. Every day was a life of violence, destruction, extreme poverty, and even death to those who tried crossing from east to west. But there were people who willingly risked their lives and the lives of their children, even with that slim possibility of having a future and a chance to really live. The Berlin Wall didn't keep people from entering into East Berlin. It prevented people from escaping a life of oppression in the East. I've also had the opportunity to see the wall in Israel. If you were to ask an Israeli Jew, they would tell you that that wall is a form of protection against Palestinian terrorists. You'd get a different answer if you were to ask a Palestinian Christian what that wall was for. They would tell you it was a wall of oppression. The wall that was erected by Israel on Palestinian land prevents Palestinian farmers from reaching their land, resulting in a loss of income and resulting in poverty. Public services like garbage pickup are practically non-existent because they aren't allowed into Palestinian territory. Stalled at the Israeli checkpoints and unable to get to hospitals, Palestinian infants and children have died in their mother's arms. I witnessed the destruction of a Palestinian home on Palestinian land being destroyed by the Israeli army because the homeowner didn't have a building permit, which often takes 20 years to obtain. Fences, walls, and barriers, are they forms of protection or forms of oppression? The people of Judah had been forced to leave their homes in Jerusalem, and they became refugees in Babylon, the country of their captors, where they built metaphoric walls. They had to leave their traditions behind and become familiar with the new culture, and they longed for their past and former life. They wept at their situation and were homesick for the way things used to be. They were in a place where they did not belong and they did not want to be. They had their bags packed and were just waiting their time, waiting for God to tell them they could return home. For a while, the prophet Jeremiah empathized with them until he received a word from God. But it wasn't a word that the Israelites were expecting, nor did they want to hear. As one commentator explained, Jeremiah told the people, okay, you've moped around long enough. Your old life is gone. Deal with it. Settle down. Establish roots. Adjust to this unintended change in your lives. Your new life is here in Babylon. Stop resisting, resenting, and rejecting your current situation. This is where God wants you. Make the most of it, because you'll be here for a while. Jeremiah went on to instruct the people on how they were to conduct themselves in order to live confidently into the future. He told them, don't be afraid to spend money on houses. Build them up, fix them, and use them to the fullest. Plant gardens because you'll be around long enough to enjoy the fruit and vegetables they produce. God doesn't want you to dwindle away, so you must increase in number. Have lots of children. And then when they are old enough, help them find spouses so they too can have lots of children. Once the Israelites accepted their long-term circumstances, they flourished. Once they recognized that their future was directly connected to the community in which they lived, then with God's help, their lives were fruitful. Whenever we remove barriers, whether they are literal or metaphorical, life improves for all concerned. Just 1 year after I left Berlin, President Ronald Reagan stood before the wall in West Berlin and challenged then Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall. And 19 months later, that oppressive wall was destroyed, uniting East and West. Churches, like the one I talked about earlier, who don't remove their fences, walls, and barriers, lose connection with their community, and over time, decline and closure eventually come. Richard Rohr A Franciscan priest, in his book Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life, quotes Robert Frost, who said, "Good fences make good neighbors. But," argues Rohr, "we have to cross beyond the fence in order to actually meet the neighbors." Think about the walls that separate us from our community. What would happen if we were to remove those walls? What if we had a ministry instead of a fence or barrier that shouted, "We care about your welfare and well-being"? God told the Israelites to plant gardens. And there have been several people in our community, in this congregation, who've talked about starting a community garden in our lots across the street. A community garden that would provide fresh, nutritious vegetables to people who often don't have the ability to buy healthy food. A community garden that would provide exercise and build relationships. A community garden that would provide us with an opportunity to work side by side with our neighbors, to establish connections, relationships. Conwell United Methodist Church's motto is, "Come grow with us." And I thought about what that could mean. It could mean, come grow with us numerically. It could mean, come grow with us spiritually. It could mean, come grow with us as disciples of Jesus Christ. And it could also mean, come grow a garden with us. Come grow this community. God is concerned about the welfare and well-being of all people. The Israelite refugees in Babylon were God's agents, and they were expected to seek the well-being of the city in which they lived. God expected them to pray for that city because in its welfare is where they would find their welfare. When the community flourishes, so does the church. When the community declines or deteriorates, so does the church. When life is going well for the people in the community, it has a positive effect on all. Our well-being is directly connected to our community's well-being. And when they thrive, we thrive. Let's pray. Oh God, we confess our need to be more diligent in seeking the well-being of our neighbors, our community, and our city. We often feel that the busyness of the church distances us from our neighbors. Open our eyes to the spiritual, social, emotional, and economic condition of our community. Enable us to see the struggles of the people who live near us and help us to hear their cries for mercy. Give us courage to extend a hand, lend a shoulder of support, or share our faith as we find that our own well-being is entangled in the well-being of those around